Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Bateman?
Here.
Mr. Blair?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mr. Ori?
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Here.
Mr. Ping?
Here.
Welcome, everyone. With us tonight, we have Director of Finance Mark Medler, Assistant City Manager Corey Wright, City Manager Dave Kennedy, City Solicitor Joe Braun, Chief of Police Michael Gabrielson. Director of what is it, Misty?
Marketing.
Marketing and Communications, Krista Rose. At least I didn't forget you this time. Krista Rose. Who else we have? Former council members Pat Mays and Todd Osborne are here. Lots of people from our various committees, which I think we're going to meet along the way here shortly, and esteemed members of our Public Works Department and our Police Department. So thank all of you for being here. And without further ado, I think we will start with Rob Hayden and our Public Works Director. There he is. Thank you. That's what you were saying.
I was saying it to you.
Good man. Only you're a little slow. Or I was. Perhaps I was.
Did you have your glasses on?
Hey.
Have them on my head.
Yes.
So we're here tonight
Did you
for.
introduce yourself? This is
I'm Scott Wisby. Well, you. I
our
thought you
Public
were.
Works
I
Director.
thought you were going to.
No, I forgot. Thank
So
you.
I'm Scott Wisby, Public Works Director, City of Loveland. Been here 16 plus years now. It's been a privilege, a pleasure, and thank you, Mayor, Council, for having us here tonight for Rob. It's his 25th anniversary. Rob has grown with the city. He's done every single thing that we can ask of an employee, grown into the department, taken many roles on throughout time. Rob just, he's what we want. He's, our future for a minute. He's pretty old though, but so I don't even know where to start, and I didn't practice anything or rehearse anything. So I'll just say, for instance, throughout time, Rob started seasonally. I think you did 3 years seasonally before you became full-time. Became full-time, and he's been just a stand-up guy. He knows the community. Has lived here his whole life. And he's always been entrusted with things, but he never had an opportunity to actually grow. And I want to thank council and mayor and past administrations that have allowed our guys to have the opportunity to grow. And they have that now. And this is a thriving example of what you get from this. You get people that stay long-term and people that really enjoy the community and their position. So just as recently as 2 years ago, we lost a guy to retirement that was a Class 2 water operator. They're hard to get. They're very hard to get. They're even harder to keep. Rob was not one at the time. We lost this fellow due to retirement. I went to Rob. I said, Rob, I think you ought to go for your Class 2 water operator. Okay, left it on the table there and didn't say anything else. About, a short period of time, maybe a week, 2, he came to me and asked me for my credit card. And I said, sure, what's up? And he goes, well, I'm signing up for this Class 2. I'm like, sweet. So it wasn't negotiation. He was asked to step up, and he did. And then since then, not only did he go for his Class 2 water operator license, which is time away from home, time away from family, and it's very hard to obtain. It's a state level certification. A lot of people take 2, 3, 4 times to get it. Rob went up, never questioned him. First time, boom, done. So, that says a lot, and dedication and time, and not only from Rob, but his family. He works a lot of overtime with the water now, where he used to do it mainly with the streets. So there's not enough good I can say about him. So it's a pleasure, and I'm glad to have him. He's been here longer than me, but we went through our growing years together, and it's been a pleasure to do this. So I don't know what else I can say about him other than congratulations, Rob, and
thank you.
not a lot to add to that other than our police and our fire are sort of the ones that are out front and people talk about them a lot. But honestly, I think we get more emails and phone calls thanking our public works and the employees. And you really do a fantastic job for the citizens of Loveland. You are a prime example of that, of a dedicated public servant in the public works department that makes our residents feel safe. You take care of things for them, and you make us look good. So we're really thrilled to have you here for 25 years. We hope we'll have you a lot longer.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything. Fantastic. So we have this for you for 25 years.
Okay.
That is yours. I have no idea what this is, but I think you must like golf.
Yeah.
So,
And they get lost very quickly.
yes. I don't know what that means. I don't know what this is.
Scuba gear.
No, but thank you very much
Well,
for
thank you.
everything. So one more time.
All front.
Come on, give me the picture.
Do your picture.
That's your,
I was gonna make her say. Yeah, I'll call. Thanks for your service. Awesome.
Oh, thank you very much. I enjoy it.
That's good.
Oh, he said he has. You said you didn't let me talk at home.
He didn't say what he wanted to. I thought we were just messing with him. Rob, do you have things you'd like to say?
No, I just want to thank the residents of Loveland because when we do get compliments on what we do, it makes me take a lot more pride in what I do. I want to thank all my coworkers. I've been probably paid about to tolerate for 5 years. All my ex-bosses and current bosses too. Just thank them for putting up with me. Taking me in the right direction.
Well, we're glad to have you. Well done. All right, Chief Gabriels.
Good evening, everybody. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City staff, I am honored to speak to you today as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Loveland Police Department. So just very briefly, as some history, the modern-day Loveland Police Department began its evolution as the Loveland Horse Thief Patrol in the mid to late 1800s. This vigilante group was formed to deter horse thieves by tracking them down and locating stolen horses. Riders received up to $10 for this service. As horses lost societal importance, these groups often morphed into enforcing laws and proper citizen contact. In 1876, a single town marshal was elected and served the community as a peacekeeper, serving warrants, performing prisoner details or transports, and other services such as lighting the gas lights around the city, animal control officer, street cleaner, and village engineer. This was a solo position until 1939, when legislation was passed creating the office of Deputy Marshal in the village of Loveland. So after that date, there was more than one performing these duties. The office of Police Chief is first mentioned in legislation in 1943, but it wasn't until 1948 when the village council created the Loveland Police Division and named John Fritz as the first official police chief for the village of Loveland. About a decade later, the village authorized the hiring of patrolmen to support Chief Fritz, so he did that job by himself for approximately a year, or 10 years. Fast forward 65 years or so, the village earned its city status. The City of Loveland Police Department has grown to 23 full-time police officers, several of them you see back behind me here, including the police chief, assistant chief, 4 lieutenants, 17 patrol officers. Many of the team members have multiple roles, including 3 evidence technicians, 2 taser instructors, 6 firearms instructors, a K-9 team, everybody loves the K-9, 4 school resource officers, 6 bike patrol officers, 1 criminal investigator, 2 defensive tactics instructors, and the list goes on and on. Our administrative team is led by our systems manager. It includes an operations assistant, record specialist, and property room manager. We also operate our own mayor's court, which is led by our clerk of courts. And we are further supported by several volunteers from the city and 2 police chaplains. So if you do some quick math there, what John Fritz used to do by himself now takes over 30 individuals to accomplish the services we provide to this city. What has not changed during that time, since the inception of the police division, is the hard work and dedication of everyone who is serving or will serve with this agency. These professionals strive to enforce laws impartially and respect community principles. We use every opportunity to build the already strong relationship we have with the citizens of Loveland. And you are just as likely to see an officer spending time talking with a citizen along the bike trail as you are seeing them responding to a call for service throughout the community. To honor the past, present, and future of this agency and everyone connected with us, and to celebrate our Diamond Jubilee, we designed a 75th anniversary badge, which myself and a few of the other members are currently wearing. We're authorized to wear them for 1 year, and then they'll be retired. They were provided to every active officer and team member. Mayor, vice mayor, council members, the men and women of the Loveland Police Department want to thank you for your continued support by appointing each of you this evening as honorary members of the Loveland Police Department and present you each with a 75th anniversary badge.
Wowie zowie.
We know you will each uphold our mission to provide excellent customer-oriented service with integrity while continuously improving.
Kip,
Thank you very much.
Kip, you already got yours?
I already have mine.
Yes, there are. Nobody was intentionally missed. We actually presented at a previous meeting.
He's been wearing it.
Oh, patrolling. I can only imagine what you've been patrolling.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
this could be dangerous.
How cool is that?
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can we do
Appreciate
a picture with all of everybody that's here?
Absolutely, you're the man.
Bring the badge.
Did you bring your bag?
Don't wear it.
I should not bring
Wear it.
Mhm.
I already have a badge.
told me when they gave
I already have a
you
badge.
can't wear this.
Put it on.
I'm a detective.
I can't even get it out of the baggie. I'm just gonna have to hold it.
Mr. Ping, you need one for the photo?
That's really cool.
It's gonna look like a loser without it.
Okay.
All right, crowd it in. Very cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, sir. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir. So you're yeah. Very cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
No, you're not. You're right. I'm done. Never mind.
That is really cool.
Struggling.
Well, did anybody know what's really going on?
We have something for you.
This is a pretty good council day so far. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
All right. So this is our Director of Finance, Mark Medler. He's very loud most of the time. He's trying to keep it down tonight. All right. So we are here to celebrate because Mr. Medler, on behalf of the City of Loveland, has been presented with the Ohio Auditor of State Award with Distinction. So this is a new award that's being added to the Finance Department's trophy case. For the first time, the city has received the Ohio Auditor of State Award with Distinction. The award, which less than 5% of all Ohio communities receive, is based on the city's annual audit and goes to communities that have clean and transparent financials. So different than the other awards that we have won for many years, and hopefully you keep that up this year. This one is actually, we talk a lot about being transparent, and here we are winning an award with our finances for being transparent, which is pretty incredible. So our Director of Finance, Mark Medler, and his dedicated staff work very hard to provide the city with financial excellence, and obviously he has the awards to prove it. So here it is. Congratulations.
So, all right, I am working on projecting. And I'd just like to say thank you, Mayor, and thanks everyone that kind of helps with our reporting. As you said, we take our reporting very, very seriously here, transparency in our reports. We apply for a lot of awards through the Government Finance Officers Associations called the GFOA. We apply for our budget award, and we apply for our reporting award. And we've gotten so good that we're even getting awards that I didn't even know existed, like this one. So this is kind of going above and beyond. As the mayor said, less than 5% of reporting organizations get this award. You probably heard the phrase having a clean audit. It's like, well, what does that mean? That's having all of your financials reported on time, having nothing that brings up a question. You know, the worst thing you want is to have an auditor come in and say, what did you spend this $5,000 on? This doesn't look familiar. Try to avoid anything like that. So make sure you have all of your books in order, spend everything that you're supposed to spend it on, obey the law. That's pretty much a pretty big thing. So I'd just like to thank the support of Mr. Kennedy and Mayor Bailey and the whole council that's been giving me a shot to fill this role for not quite 3 years now. And I've really appreciated what they've trusted in me to do, and just want to have this award and show you that trust has not been misplaced, that we are going to keep reporting and let everyone know what your hard-earned dollars are being spent on here in the city, and make sure you know that your money is not being wasted. So thank you. I think
And now, John Espy, our Arts Commission Chair.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is John Espy, and I'm the chair of the Arts Commission. I want to recognize the other Arts Commission members that are here tonight. If you would just stand. Thank you all.
Deirdre.
Deirdre
Dyson.
We have Deirdre Dyson.
Pat
We also have
Mays.
Pat Mays. We also have
Peter.
Pete Sexton.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think I missed anyone. We have been hard at work to make an impact on the City of Loveland's art presence. Through our initiatives, the Arts Commission completed an initial electric box vinyl wrap project with artwork designed by our commission's very own Pete Sexton. This is out in front of graders. This led to an expansion of the project and a call for artists in the spring of 2023. We had over 30 submissions to the commission through the process, and I want to thank all that participated, and they should be commended for their artwork and willingness to participate for the betterment of Loveland. We have tonight 2 individuals that were selected by the commission as top submissions. We are very happy to present them with their awards, a check for $1,000 for each recipient. Our first recipient is Diane Bomar. She would like to come up. Oh well,
No.
it's pretty
Giant
big.
check.
No,
It's pretty. Well, we're getting no. The check's not giant. We're going to work on that for next time. We'll ask for a slight budget increase so we can get a larger check for next time. But Diane's, yeah, it's already vetoed. Diane's artwork, Happiness, is displayed on the box, as you can see up here, near Prince of Peace on the corner of West Loveland and Lebanon Road. I stand corrected. This one actually is Sweetheart
Bright.
Sweetheart
No, it's
Bride.
the right one, but it's a different name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same.
Right
same,
one,
Yeah, same art.
different name.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And then I'd like to also bring up our next recipient, Kate Bergen, for Trail Town Backpack.
That one's cool. That's right.
Congratulations. This is on the corner near Carl Brown Way and West Loveland. And as you can see, it's a nice 3D backpack that we can see on all sides. So I just want to commend everyone again for their art submissions, and again for our recipients tonight. And thank you all for everything you've done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good picture. But I would also thank you to John and to the Arts Commission, because this is a pretty cool initiative.
Yeah.
That this is the first year for this, and I think that they're pretty neat to see these around the city. So well done. Let's do a picture. John, you're the chair. Get over here. John.
Yes, you can pull people over. Gotta mix it up.
Well done. Thank you. Here. That's why I was here to help you.
Peace out.
David, now we have the historic structure designation plaques. Who do you want?
Assistant Public Works Director.
With you for now?
Yeah, we have two tonight. First of all, I wanted to recognize Randy Campion. When we first started the historic preservation process, Randy was one of the initial members, which included Saturdays walking around, looking at various structures, writing the guidelines, the regulations. Randy, Marianne Lynn, are some of the founders who are still on the committee today. So I asked Randy to just be here and come on up with us, or whatever you feel comfortable. Chairman of the historic preservation. So we have we've completed a designation of three historic properties so far. The first one was the White Pillars Homestead, which was pretty fitting. We since did the Ramsey Cemetery and then the Hill Wagner Cemetery. We've recently received applications beginning of the year of two more structures. I'm going to give you a brief summary of each of the structures and have you come up. But the first one was the Bonaventure House, which is better known as the Historic Museum over on Riverside Drive, as part of the Historic Museum. This building was built in 1862. It is symbolized because it's a unique Italian style architecture, but it's really unique in the sense that the building has served a lot of different purposes during its time. It was, for a while, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Grethel, but it was the Cincinnati Auto Club for a while. It was a doctor's office. It was the American Legion for a while. And in 1982, that was purchased to be the town museum center. And it is, if you haven't been there, it's been meticulously restored. And just recently they went through a process. So it is it was very proper that this structure be added to the city's list. So why does it take so long for us to get from the point where historic preservation nominates it, city council makes it official, is because we have these specifically made And the Historic Preservation Commission, which Randy was in, we really never wanted to change these ever. So this took quite a bit of time for these to be built, designed. We worked with Schildmeyer, and this is what takes so long. That's why I always want to apologize that we sort of lose the luster when we come back. You get what we wanted to do. We want years from now that people go by the homestead. Years from now, you go by Ramsey's and then, of course, the Bonaventure House. So I'm going to turn this over to Kathy and Randy, and they're going to present it for Jim. I don't know who all wants to come up.
Okay, you want to introduce others that are here?
Sure. My name is Jim Grethel, president of the Loveland Historical Society. We have some board members here, and spouse Kim Grethel, Pete Bisman, and Mark Crum. I think that's every one of us here. So, and Andy Bateman, how could I forget that? Anyway, on behalf of all of us, we're very happy to accept this and hope you all come out and visit. And it was great coming here tonight. We get to hear some from the chief about some police history. So for history nerds like us, this is great. I remember Chief Jordan always taught me which side of the road to walk on, which side of the road to ride my bike on. It's never left. So anyway, great to have this. Thanks. Yeah. You guys want to come on out? Thank you.
Sure.
It's record-setting night.
This is your brainchild.
Like a melee.
We got little rumble strips though. They should warn you. Perfect timing. Perfect timing on the ring. Nice. Ring tone is clutch.
The next I'm sorry, I let it. Yeah. The next and the second of the two structures that we have tonight is the works. And if you do a little research on the works, it comes at the city from a different standpoint, where the Bonaventure House was sort of symbolizes residential life, what it was throughout the time of the city and what they've turned that into now. The works sort of represents infrastructure and also the beginning of an era of what was our downtown district, because it's sort of unique in the sense that Henry Hubble, who designed the works, which was constructed in 1905, was actually the same architect who designed Music Hall in the city of Cincinnati. One of the, I guess, its most notable era was likely as it was a main water supply for the rail cars. What was unique about it, it was the only rail water stop between Cincinnati and Columbus. And it sort of started that whole era of people stopping by for the city. But it also served as basically the city's water system. And it also served as our public works. If you do a little research, when the rail car was brought into the city in 2011, technically, they can stake claim for that as being the city went ahead and designated that rail car as a historic structure. So technically, that might go down in history as the rail car. It has been restored thanks to Scott and now Lance. Lance Sizemore, who's here. And it has become sort of one of the most, when I have, Corey and I have meetings and how do I get to City Hall? I just say, go to the works and you'll be right behind City Hall. And it's a wonderful addition to the city. And it really was that first of that second era in the city's, what is now a thriving downtown district. It's one of those people that sort of started it all. So, Lance, were you able to come up?
You don't have to hold yet if you want to say a few words.
Oh yeah. No, thanks for having us here. And it's been great to be a part of the Loveland community, and we're just very appreciative of you guys doing this for us. So thank you very much.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah. You're gonna put this on the building now, right?
Talk to the city manager.
I'm back.
Did you hear what he said? He goes, I'll have to go over and help him.
You were speaking. I know what it was like.
Great. Hey, take care.
We're glad to have you.
We'll see you.
It's fun.
Here's
I'll see you soon. Yes. Yes. Heart. That's true. Oh, it's a rowdy crowd. Yeah, Mark's good. All right, first we have, or next, minutes from the September 26th, 2023 meeting. Are there any changes, additions to those minutes? If not, can we have a
Move to
motion?
approve the minutes.
You?
Second.
All right. Well, the reason we moved on is because nobody signed up for open forum. I'm surprised nobody caught me on that. All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman,
Abstain due to absence.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Ori,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Next, we have a public hearing. I'm going to go ahead and let, as you all know, there is a memo regarding this issue further in the packet. But before we do the public hearing, I'm going to let Mr. Wright go ahead and explain. Go ahead and go through your memo for us. It's 13A. If anybody wants to go to it now, but otherwise,
Thank you,
the floor is
Mayor.
yours.
So we have before us tonight case 2023-05. This is a public hearing to consider a zoning text amendment for the regulation of smoke, tobacco, electronic, cigarette, vaping, and CBD business uses within the city. And so this sort of represents the genesis of this that came before council a few months back, with regard to a request for 180-day moratorium. And the impetus of that was a plea from the superintendent. And in fact, that letter was attached to the packet at the end of June, early July, indicating that vaping and e-cigarette use and all of that is just a predominant problem. It's one of the biggest discipline problems the schools have, and they were imploring council to look at this. And so, with that, and we had that letter before us, council took bold action and established a moratorium on that to give the Planning and Zoning Commission time to review and initiate a zoning text amendment. And so, we talked about sort of the hazards of vaping. There's numerous studies. You have CDC data. You've got the Enquirer just ran a series of articles which were linked to in the packet. It was a weekly set of articles last week talking about, the impacts to homes, the impacts to children, the impacts to schools, just the whole 9 yards in that. And really, in diving into this, the numbers are astonishing. Where 14% of high school students are using these things on a regular basis per CDC data, 3.3% of middle school students, and that hit home for me personally as the parent of a middle school student or a student entering middle school as well. And the impact has been documented significantly. It impacts. It's very addictive. It impacts developing brains. It also the products have additives to them, the flavorings. They can cause diseases of the respiratory tract, and so there is just a host of issues when we were researching this. And then again, hitting home with I'll read an excerpt from Superintendent Broadwater's letter. It's imperative that we as a community do everything possible to curtail the uses of these devices, as well as educate our students, parents, and the community of the dangers associated with them. Cooperation between the City of Loveland School District will strengthen the commitment of curtailing the use of these with the city, and the City of Loveland will curtail the use of these devices by our Loveland City School District. So with that, and all of this data, the Planning and Zoning Commission really took this under advisement. They looked at it. The ordinance is relatively straightforward. We define what a smoke shop is, and then there's a new section, I believe it's 1165-21, which would prohibit them throughout the city. And so the commission took action. They held the public hearings per the text amendment process, initiation, public hearing. They had a very robust discussion, ultimately recommending to adopt the amendment to council. And so now that amendment is before you this evening. The public hearing has been advertised, and we are here. The recommendation from staff in this regard is to adopt this amendment, given the amount of time, the action the council has taken, the plea from the school district, the personal plea from the superintendent, and I believe we may have a representative here tonight from the schools as well. So the recommendation is to adopt the amendment as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission, consistent with the Planning and Zoning Code for the City of Loveland, Ohio.
All right, thank you. So we do have a public hearing. I think we will open the public hearing, hear from, we do have one individual signed up, close it, and then we'll comment. Let council comment. Might as well do it now rather than wait until we get to that point in the agenda. So we need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing to consider the zoning text amendment regulating smoked tobacco, electronic cigarette vaping, and CBD business uses within various zoning districts throughout the city of Loveland.
Thank you. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, we have Dr. Stacy Puerta, the Assistant Superintendent of Loveland City School District.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Stacy Puerta. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning for Loveland Schools. I'm here tonight representing Mr. Mike Broadwater, who is unable to be with us tonight. He's actually traveling right now. But I am here representing him, as well as, I believe, the rest of our district administrative team at Loveland Schools. I'm going to speak a little bit in support of the proposed ordinance, which would establish regulations governing smoke shop businesses within the city of Loveland. I did have a chance to read through the memorandum, and one of the things that really stood out to me overall, the memorandum included some really thorough research and some shocking statistics, one of which I would like to read out loud because it signifies the importance of this ordinance. It states, e-cigarette use increased 78% among high school students from 11.7% in 2017 to 20.8% in 2018. In 2018, more than 3.6 million U.S. youth, including 1 in 5 high school students and 1 in 20 middle school students, currently use e-cigarettes. That is from the CDC. I realize that that's a few years old, but I do have a few numbers that are a little bit more current, just to show that things haven't really improved over those years. And this is from the Monitoring the Future survey done in 2022, where they reported that in the last 30 days, students who took this in the last 30 days, 7% of 8th graders, 14% of 10th graders, and 20% of 12th graders reported using nicotine vape. And that would have been within the last 30 days from when they took the survey. Of those students, 27.6% of youth users are daily users, and 40% of them have used 20 of the last 30 days. Additionally, nicotine vaping is an avenue to THC. As students who took the survey, we found that 1 in 6 of those users reported progressing to THC from nicotine. So why do students vape? I think there's a variety of reasons. Research will show you it can be anything from social value, fun, experimenting, depression, anxiety, addiction, social media, influences, any number of things. One thing we know for sure is that it hurts our students, and it's also draining our resources as a school district, and it's ultimately affecting student learning within the classroom. Just to share with you a few numbers, as Corey alluded to, it is one of our larger disciplinary infractions at the school. And I was able to pull some numbers from Loveland High School. From the 2022-23 school year, so last school year plus the first quarter of this school year, there have been 57 discipline infractions related to vaping in the school, which is significantly higher than any other infraction that we have in the school. My daughter, who actually attends Loveland High School, would tell you that it's much higher, because we know students go into the bathroom, they vape, and you don't have cameras in there. You can't track down every single instance of it. So, those are the ones that are confirmed that we know about, which is just really kind of scary statistics. Vapes are becoming increasingly easier to obtain, and it becomes more difficult to prevent students from starting. So Corey kind of stole my closing argument here. I was going to read the quote from Mr. Broadwater that he said, but really, I think in closing, this issue is much bigger than the four walls of our school buildings. This is going to take a village to even start to kind of hammer away at these issues. And I think the support between the City of Loveland and Loveland School District, we can start to make a difference. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Purchase. Dr. Purchase, before you sit down, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here tonight. All right, then we need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion closed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm slow on the uptake. Can I ask a question of the doctor?
Yes, can you return to the podium, please, for Councilmember Blair?
I apologize. That's okay. So you have kids vaping in the hallways, more or less. Do you have kids smoking cigarettes in the hallways?
No.
So it's much more an issue of the vaping than it is of the smoking of the cigarettes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And it's more in the restrooms than I would say the hallways.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah.
Anything else for the doctor? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so it seems like this is a first reading tonight only. We will not be voting on this issue tonight, but this seems like the appropriate time if anybody has any comments or questions of Corey or any comments you want to make. We can talk about it at the next meeting as well, but if anybody wants to chime in now, do we have to do anything to be able to discuss it at this point? Okay. Anyone? Yes.
I would just, assert what I think most of us feel about this scourge. It is. It's something that is of great trouble and causing lots of suffering. And I think we have a responsibility to the community on a somewhat of a public health issue like this. If you read those Enquirer articles, there's a clear and present danger that these retailers, as well as what they're peddling, pose to the community, and it's to our most vulnerable. It's to our children. And so I put this in the category of, in the old days they call them peep shows or sexually oriented businesses. That regulation I think is important because it's controlled it through the years. I think this is of as equal, if not greater, concern to the community, and I appreciate the fact that the Enquirer ran that article because, especially that first article, it just ripped my heart out to hear about how it actually is so addictive. Kids are dying from it. So,
thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to add one thing for council's benefit. This does not affect the existing smoke shop that's in the city. So I did want to explain that. What it really does is it prohibits additional businesses from opening if this regulation were to be adopted. If the existing business were to close or cease operations for some reason, then it would no longer be grandfathered and it would also be prohibited in the city of Loveland.
And there is just one that we have at the moment.
That's my understanding. I would also, again, just selling the products isn't what's banned. The business itself has to be a majority of its products, meaning 50% or more, have to be sold of that type. I would also, just for council's benefit, let you know that your adjacent community immediately to our south, Miami Township, has adopted almost an identical piece of legislation, and that's significant for the Loveland School District because a large portion of the Loveland School District also resides in Miami Township. So it may give you some comfort to know that both communities will have, if this is adopted, similar regulations, which is a huge benefit to the Loveland School District to be able to say that both of those large communities have taken some action in response to the problem they're experiencing.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Blair.
While there's just one smoke shop, there are any number of businesses that sell the vaping. And to the good doctor's point, some sort of advocacy ought to be apparent for those businesses that may sell tobacco and liquor and other products that also sell the vaping materials, that it's the vaping materials themselves that are at issue, and some advocacy, at least a good word could be put into some of those other businesses that are selling the vaping materials to say, you're selling liquor and alcohol, you're selling liquor and cigarettes, maybe you ought to lay off the vaping. Just a suggestion.
Anyone else have a comment? Yes, Mr. Hart.
I would say to Mr. Blair's point, I think that I would wholeheartedly agree with you. It'd be nice if obviously all these government warnings that are out there and all the medical advice that's out there that says that this is just horrific for people's health, especially our young people. I would say two things. I would say one, incremental change is the measure of the day, right? We have to start somewhere, and this seems like a very, very reasonable place to start. I would say that I understand where there may be pushback on limitations of businesses in Loveland. I understand that particular. However, I think in this particular case, the health concerns and what this is doing to our community in terms of our young people, especially, far outweigh the negative impact it would have there. So I think that the problem is that when you see these vape devices, if you've been in a school, you see that they're built like highlighters, like jump drives, like everything that doesn't look like a cigarette. And quite frankly, I'm allowed to have a vape. I'm 43 years old. I'm allowed to have one. Why do I need one that looks like a highlighter? I don't. I'm allowed to carry one around. So the only reason you create things like that is to make it useful for children. So that makes no sense to me. So if we're going to push those types of devices, I have a serious problem with that. So I think that this is the first step in incremental change that other communities are taking, which make a great deal of sense to me.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Mr. Ori?
Question for Mr. Braun. If the shop that's in town now will happen to close or sell to someone else, is there legislation in there that would prohibit that being grandfathered in?
It could be transferred, but an additional shop could not be opened. So there's nothing we can do. This is kind of like conforming, non-conforming. I don't like using the word grandfather, but we use that word. So the existing business, there's nothing we can do about. Okay. It's there. So that's how it is. Okay. So one other thing I forgot to mention, another step that Miami Township took, which just was something you said, Mr. Hart, made me think of it, is they've also made all of their parks smoke-free and tobacco-free, which they also banned vaping in their parks as well. So that's something else. If you're thinking about other steps down the road, that's another thing you can think about. You can control whether individuals are permitted to vape on city property. So that's something else to think about. But there's nothing we can do about an existing business. It can be transferred. It just can't cease operation, and a new business can't start.
Any other comments? Yes. No. Did Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
So I recognize the dangers and the problem at hand and the inherent community distaste for the smoke shops and the vape shops and the issue at hand here for sure. And to me, my stomach is in knots over this because I don't think that the issue is around if smoke shops are good or if they should be in Loveland or not. I agree with the principle of this, the sense that really what we're doing is we put a moratorium on them in the city, and then we essentially cemented that moratorium with this legislation. And it was logical and complete shut off of the faucet for any influx of these types of businesses to come in the city, which to Mr. Broadwater's letter was the request. Do everything in your power to curtail these businesses. So, on the surface of this, I see this as what we the community want, what the council has within their power to grant. Where I'm conflicted, and which I voiced when we sent this down to planning and zoning, and then also during the planning and zoning meetings, is just the principle of it, I suppose, really, is that it becomes difficult for us to essentially regulate those businesses that sell below the 50% threshold. And it opens the door for businesses that could fit that description to come in without any problem. I think the market is certainly sophisticated, and independent entrepreneur, are able to evolve and recognize loopholes and find ways to exist within them. So while in many ways this effectively shuts off the faucet of the traditional vape shop coming into our community, I think it doesn't necessarily have those teeth for those types of businesses that go right outside that description. So it creates ambiguity, I think, in the circumstance, which goes counter to the idea of this legislation, which is to make a clean break from allowing them in our community. So I just struggle with that a little bit. On top of that, the fact that, like tobacco, these products are legal, and so because we can prohibit them in our community, I don't know if that's the role of government to necessarily do that in all cases. But if I were to oppose this, I hope that it's out of a principled protest and not a decisive vote, because I recognize that this is what the community is wanting to do. The school is asking for this, and asking for us to grant them a reprieve from this, insidious social vice. And so if that's our call as representatives, then that's something that we should listen to. And so it looks as if that might be the direction that we're heading, which again, I think I can live with that. But when we go through evolutions of our zoning code, my preference would be that we find ways to do this which allow for a greater clarity of these exceptions, which I'm referring to. That those, and Mr. Kennedy brought it up in our planning and zoning and mentioned how we could get creative with the zoning code and essentially do this exact thing just through longer legislation, through more detailed legislation. I think that time was of the essence, and that's why we are here where we are today. We did not have the time to go through a detailed review of our zoning code to try to sort of cherry pick the who, what, when, where, and hows of what a vape shop could be and where we would like it to be. So, long story short, I think that this is something that overall is good for the community, but I do want to be on record in this discussion, as I have in other discussions, about my hesitancy and trepidation around going down this road of looking to regulate something that is currently nationally seemingly unregulatable. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? I would just say we're not disparaging the current shop that is in our city. They may very well be checking IDs for all we know. I really don't have any idea, but kind of in response to what Mr. Blair said, if these articles, and there were at least 5 of them, and in one they talked about that where you're seeing the biggest problem of not IDing children are in the vape shops, not in your 7-Elevens and Circle Ks. So yes, they are available in those places, but those don't seem to be where the problem is. So at least we're, by doing this, addressing that particular issue. I appreciate that we have this type of relationship with our city school district, that you can come to us with an issue, and I know that your superintendent worked with our city solicitor in how we can address this through our mayor's court, and this was a way that you could work with the city that we could do something. So I appreciate the relationship that we have. I'm glad that we can move forward. It sounds like we'll have the votes we need to move forward with this at the next meeting, but we will see. But I just appreciate that Mr. Broadwater and the school district recognized they could come to us and we can have a conversation about it and hopefully a good resolution. So, and thank you again for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, so we'll have the first reading when we get to that point in the agenda. But and you don't have to stay, Doctor. You are free to go. All right, so Mr. Kennedy.
So a big part of what we do as a staff is, especially this time of year when we're preparing the 2024 budget, is we try to keep projects online. We look at projects that are wrapping up this year, projects that are scheduled for next year. And that is one of the items I'm bringing to you tonight is the engineering for the Loveland Miamiville sidewalk phase 2. This city is clearly committed to connectivity. And we're clearly committed to taking a comprehensive plan and not doing what is sitting it on a shelf. So this community is actively working on implementing 4 separate plans. And one of the things that came out of the comprehensive plan was the need to connect our neighborhoods, not just to the downtown district, but to each other, to other amenities, to schools, to the other business districts. And I think the first step in that sort of proof in the pudding type of thing was the completion of Loveland Miamiville Sidewalks Phase 1, which was finished this year. That was the first of 3 phases. To move ahead, Phase 1 did not have a water line connection, so it was a little easier to put together. If you recall, we already paid for a layout plan. So at this point in time, as we move on Phase 2, which is picking up at where Phase 1 left off at Sugar Tree and proceeding up to Steeplechase, we want to get a jump start on it by getting the engineering, the bid, the construction plans, the bid documents, and the bid packages out this year into the winter. That way, this project, as soon as the weather breaks, can go out to construction. This phase is interesting because not only does it prove the city's commitment, connect another large subdivision in the city that will be able to walk to St. Columban, LECC, city's downtown district, ultimately a Claremont County Park as we work on other connections. This area is this is also a chance for the city this will be one of our first uses of the WMR fee, because this area has an old 80-year-old cast iron pipe. Cast iron is very brittle. 80 years, we should be experiencing some significant breaks. We certainly don't want to put sidewalks over the top of an 80-year-old cast iron. So we'll be taking that pipe, upgrading it to a 10-inch line. And there's a lot of reasons for that. When it comes to the loop, that 8-inch is currently feeding 10-inch lines, which is against what you want. So the bid in front of City Council, and we've also learned, Corey and I learned this with Phase 1, it's really advantageous to get that right before you put it out for bid document ready, because we then reach out to the residents. We actually move the alignment on Phase 1. We work with Duke to get a pole removed so we wouldn't have to take down somebody's fence. At the end of the day, this ultimately helps the city. So this legislation will $19,600. It'll be split equally between water ops, stormwater, and street maintenance or general city operations. equally. We will easily be able to put this project out to bid this winter and be ready to go to construction. Just as I talked about connectivity real quickly, the city is getting ready to submit for funding for sidewalks within the heights along the Sage. That'll tie a large portion of the heights into West Loveland, which would include Rich Road, get to the high school. We are working on an alignment on State Route 48 to connect our Warren County subdivisions. Corey is championing and will carry the Level Madeira revitalization phases, and we think about what that does from a revitalization, but you got to remember all the sidewalks that will connect High Ridge, River Ridge Apartments, all the different aspects will provide that cut up customer base to a new revitalized Level Madeira Road. We are also working on a connection from St. Columba to what will be the new Claremont County Park, and what also looks like portions of the Cardinal Conservancy, and through a grant through the Appalachian region. And lastly, if you recall, you approved the East Loveland Phase 1, which is the bridge. That is one of 3 phases as the city starts working sidewalks up East Loveland to the backside of the Claremont County Park, and whatever Cardinal Conservancy will be getting ready to do with their project, which they just recently realized that were notified that they would be funding. That'll also connect the 5th Street residents and the Bears Creek subdivision.
All right, thank you. Any comment or questions? Yes, Mr. Murray.
Mr. Kennedy, I know we spoke about this, but does this engineering, will this include the that northeast corner of 48 and Loveland Miamiville, where St. Clement is, that have that connector piece to it?
The connector piece, that is actually going in. We were ready to move forward with the connector with the ramp, and then Corey and I both realized that we really needed the pedestrian buttons too. So that is actually should be going in.
We get a purchase order for the
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a habit. I have a habit, and then Corey corrects me. But of sort of, we jumped in. We could have got the ramp in relatively easily, but technically, you really should have the pedestrian buttons to go with it. So we were able to sort of throttle it back and put the whole package together, utilizing some underrun money we had in this year's budget.
Okay.
So yeah, I had a resident just call me the other day about that, and I told him it was coming, but we're doing it right this way. So, and then you and I also discussed phase 3. Phase 3, the actual right of way will be outside of the city limits when we connect Huntington, but that is actually, we'll work through the county. That's a county maintained road. We won't be working through Miami Township. Miami Township is very aware of what we're doing. They may very likely pick this up and run with it, potentially on both sides of the roadway in the future. Jeff Wright, Township Administrator, is aware of what we're doing, and he knows we're coming up his way. And, that's more people that will be able to walk into the downtown. So,
thank you.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Hart.
I would just say thank you to Mr. Kennedy. When we did the comprehensive master plan, we spent 2 years working on that. One of the big ideas that came through was walkability and connectivity in our community. And he continues to, the city staff here continues to work to make that document a reality. And that was one of our big goals, just in terms of putting it together, was we didn't want to do anything that was pie in the sky so much. We wanted to do things that were actually achievable in the 10 years that we had to plan work. So I commend all the staff here that continue to work to make that document come to life. So thank you.
Very good. Any other comment? Yes, Vice Mayor.
So this would be completed. I know you have to put it out for bid, but it would be a 2024 completion. And then would you imagine phase 3 to be 2025?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We will. Staff will be presenting the 2024 capital improvement program to you at your first meeting in November. This is in the 2024, and I'll be honest with you. Without the WMR fee, we might be having to delay it because I don't know 100% sure where we would get the funding for that. So, it's on board. It'll be ready to go in 2024. Probably be one of the first projects we'll bring to you in 2024.
Wonderful.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Blair.
Mr. Kennedy, you may address this when we talk about the WMR fee, but it's important to point out that that WMR fee, despite other water funds that may be used to help do the sidewalks and stuff like that. The WMR fee is only solely established and will be used for water main replacements.
Yes, we're actually taking steps to even further clarify that tonight.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Why don't you read the resolution?
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Choice One Engineering for professional design services, bidding, and construction supervision services in the furtherance of the Loveland Miamiville Road Sidewalk Phase 2 project.
Any comment on the legislation? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Resolution 96 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy.
So when in November of 2022, when the city council established the WMR fee, the way their legislation was prepared was that all revenue and expenditures go through the Water Capital Fund as a line item. And in year one, that really was fine because, of course, there were no expenditures. There was only revenue, and it's still easy to see the way Mark set up the line. But as we were working on 2024 capital improvement, we have two projects in 2024, Loveland Miamiville Road sidewalks, and, of course, the big project, which would be the Cherokee water main replacement. We started to realize that this is where we could run into some problems. And because this is a fund, most funds, the city's goal is we budget for the revenues on hand. We try not to budget for carryovers. We look at what we have revenue and we expend and we prepare in that way, specifically in the general fund. Well, that's impossible with the WMR. If it brings in $548,000 in a year, and in year one we have $606,754 in expenditures, and we're clearly spending some of last year's carryover, it would be confusing. We could follow it, but it would be too confusing leaving that fund in the capital, in the CIP fund. Again, then you may not do anything in 25. The fund is always building back up. So Mark and I went over it, and we decided that it would be best to just go ahead and create a fund. Actually, it will be fund number 66 that only has basically the revenue item, which is the revenue from the WMR fee. There's a separate line item for WMR late fees, and one expenditure, which is WMR CIPs. This, especially given that the city's budget is taking transparency as far as what residents will be able to see with our city budget to a whole different level. It is going to be very easy for them to track everything that comes in. Well, the Ohio Revised Code, rightfully so, doesn't let Mark and I just sit around and say, let's put together a fund. Ordinance Ohio Revised Code 5705.12 requires that we pass a resolution or ordinance. We prefer a resolution, and that this will simply establish this fund. We've already done it in the budget, and I can tell you from a budgeting standpoint, it's so much cleaner. The capital fund isn't impacted, and the WMR fee doesn't look sneaky in terms of where the funding is coming from because you're spending carryover. So it is definitely a step in the right direction. Quite frankly, I should have wrote it this way in the first place, but that being what it is. With that, 11102, which is the city's code where all of our fees are, when that was written, it says, again, I was trying to make a big point about it only being WMR, it would only be for water main, and that's in there. But it also said all fees shall go in the water cap. So I gave you a red line version, the clean version. We're simply taking 11102. This will be a first reading tonight and simply removing that. A part of our job is to make sure that ordinances and legislations don't conflict with each other. A fund, that line item, section 11102, should not have any reference regarding where the money should be deposited. That's what this fund is for. So that adds clarity to it. Then, since you've already reduced future revenues, I think that'll wrap that up, put a bow on 11102G, which won't need anything. I really feel that this is a good move for the city because this is so clear, will be so clear as we see that now as we're getting ready to expend funding, WMR funding.
All right. Any comments or questions? Mr. Hart?
Did you mention a late fee for the WMR fund fee?
Yeah, if you have a bill that's if your bill's late, your WMR fee would be late fee too. Mark, do you want to expand on that real quickly? It just goes into a separate line item.
Right. Just for your bill, there's different elements to your bill, your water, sewer, everything like that. If it's late, it's, the whole thing is late. So the late fee is calculated for each part of your bill. It's not just your water is late, the whole thing. So there's only two revenue lines in this new fund: the fee and then the late fee if people miss their payment.
So is the late fee calculated? How is that calculated?
I believe it's just proportionally for the bill. So we know what the WMR fee is. It's the same amount every month, right? So it's just a percentage of that.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. We'll read the resolution.
Resolution establishing a water main replacement fund.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
I skipped you. Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Resolution 97 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy.
So again, moving forward with non-water main replacement, these are projects that other needs of the water system come out of the water cap fund or the water operation fund. We had these are two projects that were originally put into the city's capital improvement budget for 2024. We had some underrun money in the water cap fund because the city's share of the generator grant application we applied for the water plant, we did not get that grant, so that money's we always say when Ricky Gregory asks for something for the water plant, it typically needs it. So remembering that we have a distribution system, which is your pipes, your water mains, your storage, and then we also have a treatment system, which is your wells and your water plant. So we have two projects that we feel are need that we'd like to move forward with this year, and then they would not be included in next year's CIP. The first project is rehab of well number 5. The city has 3 wells, and each of the city's 3 wells pump from an aquifer. Basically, an aquifer is just a massive underground lake, and about 80 feet deep. These wells go, and the water goes through a series of screens as it gets pumped into the plant to be treated. Ideally, every one of the city's wells should be able to produce about 1.3 million gallons a day as needed. Ricky is starting to notice that well number 5 is starting to decrease, which means it's getting gunked up. And so we would like to go for a cleaning and a surging of the well. It's quite an interesting process, but maintaining your wells is a lot like changing oil in your car. If you don't do it, you need a new car. Well, getting a new car is a lot easier than putting in a new well. When you put in a new well, you now lose your grandfathered clause in terms of your distance from your other wells. It takes multiple years to get through the studies, and the purchase of and constructing a new well is extremely expensive. So obviously maintaining it is very important. The city's well, we are very good with capacity, and we are very good with our storage, but we don't want to see this one decrease. So Lane, who's a sort of the premier well company, the company that does all of our water well work, submitted a proposal to the city for this particular project, and we would utilize this $35,895. It's a process, and the thing is, you can see your results. They do flow tests in the beginning, and they do TV tests in the beginning, and then they do flow tests and TV tests at the end to show us how much the flow has increased. So that is the first one. That is, these, as Joe will teach you can't put multiple items on one legislation. The other item that we have is cathodic protection for our water tower. So the city has 3 water towers. We have 4 water towers and 3 tanks. 3 of our 4 water towers have cathodic protection, which is used for erosion. The Union Cemetery Tower, which is up by the Commerce Park along Union Cemetery, was built in 2014, and it holds 1 million gallons of treated water. it does not currently have cathodic protection, which is really, the cathodic protection is a very interesting process. It's it's obviously a little bit of a scientific process, but what they do is they insert anodes into the water tank. Some are done with straight down anodes. Anodes are very similar to what everyone has in their water tower, in their water tank, water heaters. And what they do was the anode system. This is a suppression system that sits inside the tower with a rectifier down below inside the base of the tower, not within the water. It electrically charges the anodes, and that's why they're called sacrificial anodes, because they allow themselves, they consume all the erosion rather than the tower. So we need the cathodic protection. This will include now all 4 of our towers, and we have one of our tanks is concrete. It doesn't need it. One of our tanks is steel. It does have it, and one of our tanks does not have it. Ground tanks aren't necessarily as susceptible, but we'll probably be doing that in 2025. Then once the anodes are in place as part of our annual inspection, which goes on every year, they'll be checking the anodes. And then, as you would say, it's easier to replace an anode than it is to replace an entire water tank, a water tower. So this is a very important project to get going on. And that is submitted to council with a separate resolution.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Mr. Bateman?
I love hearing you describe all this technical stuff.
Me too.
I had a line in here that said, although it's not as exciting as road salt.
Yeah, no.
But I thought
I actually think this is more exciting than salt. Sacrificial
I thought I'd
anodes.
pass on that today.
And yet here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Thank you for bringing this. This is good, and again, kudos to the staff for agenda. Putting this all together on the agenda at the same time. It's great when we can logically think through water main replacement fees, then water system improvements. It's good logic, and I appreciate that. But my only question is around the well rehabilitation. There's obviously some sort of flushing of that after they get the chemicals to sort of. I was curious if you could describe what that looks like. How they flush it and get it ready so that it's clean and ready to be back into the system.
Yeah. So there's 2 things that wells start to develop that slow down the flow. There's incrustations along the walls of the channel of the well that along the 80 foot. And then of course there's a series of screens that get gunged up. So they use 2 types of chemicals that they constantly surge, airlift, to the point where they can tell that the flow has been brought back to, it'll probably exceed the other 2 wells. And then it's just a process of flushing. Then again, remember, this is untreated water. This is actually, if I was to be honest with you, it is more careful on what we do before we put the water tower back in service. That is a more detail, because that is holding treated water versus the well, while it still will be flushed before we put it, it is untreated water. So the well, which will be dropped down, other parts of the city system will cover it. Of course, we have 2 emergency connections to the city of Cincinnati and to Claremont County. If we ever got ourselves in a pickle, we won't need to utilize that. But yeah, Ricky is required. And again, Ricky's like the old E.F. Hutton commercials. You know, remember those when E.F. Hutton talks? When Ricky comes and says, I think we really need to discuss something for the water plant, he is incredible with how much he cares about that plant and how much he trained the guy who was sitting here tonight with you. I just want to put a plug in for Ricky because he is a stupendous person. But these are both really important needs. Could they have waited till the 2024 CIP? Probably, but we wanted to use the underrun money, and I would say the cathodic protection is of the utmost importance of the 2 projects.
Okay, well, thank you for prioritizing our water system. Appreciate it.
Yes, Mr. Blair.
Thank you. You said in the course of your discussion that we have 3 wells.
Yes.
Why is one of them number 5?
Two have been discontinued over the years.
Okay.
They just stayed with the number.
Can you give me an estimate of the size of the aquifer? Not that we're talking about salt or anything.
Oh, I
I thought it ran all the way up through Dayton. I thought.
yeah.
So we saw a map recently
Yeah.
that laid out our water system in comparison to other water systems. Is that all the same? Are we all drawing from the same aquifer?
When I was in New Richmond, we drew from a different aquifer. There are different aquifers, but the Mayor Bailey is right. The aquifer that the city comes from stretches up towards the southern parts of Dayton. I don't know how far it goes down to Cincinnati, and the total of all the different water systems that utilize the aquifer. I don't know the exact side, but you'll probably get an email tomorrow.
Okay.
So, because Lord knows Ricky knows. So.
Okay, Mr. Ori, I bet you have a different question.
Nope. It was answered.
You're kidding.
Thank you.
Wow, Mr. Ping.
I have a question just in regard to the installation of the protection. The pictures that are in the packet would imply that the tank will be emptied to put those in, of course. What is there a process that will be in place for taking that tank off, or that tower, excuse me, offline and bringing it back to make sure that we don't have a problem with kind of like we had earlier this year with the wrong things getting into the pipes and that kind of thing. Just want to make sure that we're on that.
Yeah. So the water tower in the Commerce Park will pick up all the slack for when this tower is done and gone, and when it's down, which would be, of course, better part of probably just a work week. You are correct. Whenever you bring, if you recall, maybe a little bit before your time, we took down the White Pillars Tower and had water leaks from what they call water hammer, because the system was turned back on too fast. So we are very fortunate to have at this very moment 5 million gallons of water in storage, well beyond the city's needs. But you're correct. They're very aware of the need to properly bring the tower back into service, because you're shifting the slightest movement in a water line. We see that the slightest movement in a water line can cause a break, and a ripple effect can cause breaks. That's why the city is so particular about people like MSD showing up in town and flushing their trucks with some of our fire hydrants and not opening and closing them properly like we experienced. And then we're cleaning up leaks. So that's part of what we try to communicate. You are 100% correct. Slow is best. So yes, Rick, that's really where Scott Wisby jumps in. He's more the distribution champ with this. But yeah, if all goes well, we'll have a weekly report that says the water tower has been put back in service, and it wasn't followed by Public Works had 3 water main breaks this week. So.
Good. Any other questions or comments? All right, read the first resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Lane Company for the cleaning and rehabilitation of water well number 5.
One more time.
There should be a "the" in there.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Resolution 98 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Read the next resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Corpro Waterworks for the installation of cathodic protection for the Union Cemetery water.
Any comment on that resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Resolution 99 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mayor Bailey. I have before council a 5-year renewal agreement for our Excella Civic Platform Planning and Zoning Building Software. So this would run, it's a little different. We run 12-month periods, but they run from January to January. So they sort of carry over 1 month into the next calendar year. So if you recall, over the last 3 years, we've brought annual license renewals for that. The staff was building it really for the first year and a half. We put that into service. We augmented that with online payment capability, and now the staff is really growing and utilizing that into really its third full year of support. So now we've reached the end of that support period coming up, and wanting again to take action so that we're proactive and we're not scrambling. We have this in front of council now to renew for an additional 5-year term. So a couple of points why a 5-year term. Number one, you get a chance to lock in that software at a guaranteed rate of percentage increase, 5%, really pretty reasonable in software terms. I think you'll see you can see those much greater if you go year to year. And then the other part of that is we have to do this once, and then we can take care of this. But the most important thing is staff competency grows as the software is continued to be utilized, and they continue to support that. And so I certainly am an advocate of the city invested a lot of resources into that. The staff continue to grow in proficiency in that regard. And I think that you really have to stay with a set of software and to understand and learn that. So the recommendation is to adopt the agreement, or to adopt the legislation to approve the agreement, and to authorize the city manager to execute that. Just a couple regarding fiscal impact. So fiscal impact is really only on an annual basis because they have agreed in their special financing terms to only they'll bill the city annually. It's $18,000 for the first year, rising through year 5 to approximately $21,900. So again, it's a long-term commitment. The city, I think, demonstrated that with the time and resources and staff hours that they put in the development of that. I'd like to continue that with the support of council.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Any comments or questions, Mr. Bateman?
Just a question around it's like software in the cloud that it's updating throughout that time period, right?
Yes,
You're not using the same package that is existing now for the next 5
No,
years.
you actually log into it from the cloud.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
How has Excella been to work with?
They've been very responsive. We had some, so we use a third-party payment processor. So Excella jumps in where we have issues with you have multiple interfaces. They jump right into that. They typically respond within, I wouldn't say, not a minute, but within minutes to hours whenever we send them an email. They're very responsive. And if we need to add a permit or make a modification, they take care of that very quickly. Very, very pleased with their responsiveness. And I would be remiss if I did not give specific, credit to Becky Knoll, our permit specialist, who really handles. She is our point of contact primarily. If Eva has a zoning issue, or I have an issue where we want to get a new permit or whatever, or we need to get into something like that. And then Eva and Becky also use the software to sort of support, the records component. We actually made use of co-op services too to integrate that digital component of that as well. So it's been very good, and I think the capacity for online payments is fantastic. So.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Hart.
Was there any kind of price break for going into a 5-year agreement rather than doing it year over year, or what was the desired benefit there?
So they give you a 5-year, and in my experience, what you'll do is if you go year to year, you're likely to see higher increases. So we could get a 3% next year, but we might see a 7 or 8% jump the second year, and we might be subject to higher or lower. So you really just get a chance to equalize that. And being in the heart of budget cycle, it gives us the predictability of that. We know what it's going to cost. So.
And those fees, those are locked in, right? In that
Yeah, they would be, if we sign this agreement, we'd lock this in. Yes, but we don't have to write the check for the whole. Once a year.
Yeah, very good.
All right. Any other questions? All right. And read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a 5-year licensing and support renewal agreement with Excella for the Excella Civic Platform Planning, Building, Business Licensing, and Code Enforcement Software Suite.
Any comment on the resolution?
It was extremely well read.
It was. It's true. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey? Resolution 100 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Second item I have is another IT related issue. It's a request to authorize the city manager to execute a proposal with Belcor for $22,484 for the purchase of Windows Server 2022, the operating system that's really the backbone of our network. So, long and short of it is, with Microsoft products, you typically want to run Microsoft products that you have until they tell you they're not going to support and patch those products anymore. So we are now at that point with Windows 2012. Some organizations upgrade. There's really two schools of thought. You can upgrade and pay the freight every time, or you can get the most out of the software you bought. And so that's really what the city has done. And I would give kudos to Keith Carson and Belcor for that and really stretching that. And so Microsoft has told us they're not going to support this anymore. We really need this to operate basically every piece of the equipment that we have, the servers. And so, the unfortunate thing with Microsoft is it costs what it costs to do that. So we have 154 sort of license packs that are out there. They sell you little groups of license packs, and this is for 154 of them. Just a couple of notes. If they end support on that, they don't provide security patches. They don't. It leaves you vulnerable to like attacks and all those things, cyber attacks, and then it causes your software and your hardware and your drivers and all that stuff to not work right. And again, in my experience, IT is sort of like a good football official. Nobody knows they're there if they make the right calls, but when things don't work, everybody knows they don't work. So with that, I would recommend that council authorize this proposal, and we allow the city manager to execute the proposal so we can upgrade this year.
All right. Any comments or questions? All right. Read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a proposal with Belcor for the purchase of the Windows 2022 operating system and licensing in support of the city's information technology network.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Resolution 101 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Medler.
Thank you, Mayor. So every year we receive estimates from Hamilton County about how much property tax we should expect to get in the coming year. So we have our general fund and our fire levies. So this is just really a housekeeping action that is required by Ohio Revised Code. We have received that information from Hamilton County, and we're asking you to accept the rates and amounts that they are estimating for 2024.
All right. Any questions or comments on that? Read the resolution, please.
A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission of Hamilton County, Ohio, and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 5705.34.
Thank you. Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Resolution 102 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
All right. 13A, we have already covered in the public hearing. Go ahead and read the first reading of the ordinance.
Ordinance amending Chapter 1107 definitions and Chapter 1165 general zoning regulations of the codified ordinances of the City of Loveland, Ohio.
Thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
So the city has owned the Chestnut Street Church, which is 225 Chestnut, since 2012. The city originally purchased it. When they purchased it in 2012 for a sheriff's sale, it was to provide access to the city's Chestnut Street project property, which is currently going through remediation. Since that time, the city has been able to secure the purchase of 501 Love Madeira Road, which provides a much more desirable access into the Chestnut Street property. That all but removes any need that the city has for the 225 Chestnut Street property, which was never really a desirable access point given the adjacent residential neighborhood. With that said, over the past year, at least, we've been in conversation with with a potential purchaser of the 225 Street property. In a nutshell, she would like to purchase the property, restore it, repurpose the church. Either way, the most beneficial way for the city to sit down and talk to this potential buyer is through a transfer of the property to the CIC. This will allow. Why do we do the CIC? Because in the most basic sense, the city's going to sell property. We put it in the paper. We take the highest bid. And as we learned when we sold the White Pillar Homestead and did not take the highest bid and sold it to someone that understood the history, has long since beautifully restored that building, has a family living in it. The same is true for this. This isn't throw it on the internet and see who wants to buy it. This is about finding the right fit. We feel that we may have found the right fit, but at this point in time, it's best to work through the CIC and let them handle this process. As you recall, anytime the city transfers property to CSC, we treat this the same as we do all transfers of property, which is we must first, per City Code 107.01, we must have a public hearing. I rarely would do this, but to sort of expedite this process to get this in front of CIC, I have put the first reading of the ordinance to transfer the property in first readings tonight, and then that would set us up for the same night your next meeting. When you have the public hearing, you would also have your second reading to move forward. We then, Corey and I will go ahead and meet with the CIC. The CIC, what you're approving is simply the transfer of the property and execution of this agreement. The agreement is very simple. It just sort of states out what the responsibilities of each party are. I had to make an amendment. Councilmember Blair pointed out a correction I needed with insurance. So what you have here is a red line copy. It's already been integrated as a clean copy into your second reading. Simply dictates what kind of liability and insurance the city will have. We're not making any promises, but we do feel like at this point in time, this is what's best for that important structure.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Bateman.
Super enthused and optimistic for the future of this building. I think, and I just want to give Mr. Kennedy credit for staying the course and being patient. And I think that, again, the planning expertise that you bring to your day-to-day shown through again here in this case, where now is the right time to move on this and to do something, and we have the mechanism in place with the CIC by which to do it. I think it would be great in a not too distant future, to see that church be designated as a historic site and have a future owner here, like tonight, accepting a plaque that does that. But again, I think that we're a long way from that. The other thing that I want to just mention is that I also hope that the other side of the coin comes through, in that the CIC takes whatever proceeds is generated from the sale of this Chestnut Street church and repurposes those funds in some way, in a way that is appropriate and honors that site or that neighborhood, or something that has a direct benefit to that sort of cause of rehabilitation, of honoring the such a historic site. If you remember, several years ago, we had Reverend Hamilton, come and speak to us about the history and his family genealogy of that site. So certainly, which was all unknown to so many of us sitting there on the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission that day. So I do think that, with private enterprise, that we'll be able to see the best version of this investment going forward. So again, I'm very optimistic, and I appreciate your patience, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Blair.
Mr. Bateman, one of the nice things, and kudos again to Mr. Kennedy for running this through the CIC, is that we will have the option and the opportunity and the availability of resources to address, at least look at some of the things that we've talked about before, and maybe some other alternatives that can give that site the recognition it needs to have.
Thank you. Any further comment? All right, so I guess the first thing we need is a motion approving a public hearing for the October 25th, 2023 City Council meeting to garner public input on the transfer of 225 Chestnut Street, a city-owned property, to the City of Loveland Community Improvement Corporation.
I move that.
Thank you.
Second.
Perfect. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, now if you could do the first reading of the ordinance.
Ordinance transferring real property on Chestnut Street located in the city of Loveland, Hamilton County, Ohio, to the Community Improvement Corporation of Loveland.
Thank you. All right, the next ordinance goes with 12C, the water main replacements. We already talked about this. We'll go ahead and do the first reading of that, please.
Ordinance amending section 111.02G of the Loveland Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. There are various reports and minutes. Does anybody have any comments on any of those? All right, as far as announcements, on Saturday, October 14th from 8 a.m. to noon, the Loveland Sims firefighters will host a Fill the Boot campaign to raise funds for the Karen Wellington Foundation. Firefighters will be collecting at the bike trail crossing at West Loveland Avenue and also at Kroger at Harper's Point. And if I recall correctly, Karen Wellington, I believe she died from breast cancer. Do you recall that? I believe that to be true.
Yes.
And I think the foundation provides money for breast cancer patients they'll send them on trips with their families, that type of thing. Later that evening, the Loveland Sims firefighters will host a cornhole tournament at Hobsonberry from 6 to 8, again to raise funds for the Karen Wellington Foundation. That will include live music and a bourbon raffle. Mr. Hart, Mr. Ori, might want to go be part of that.
Yeah. I'll be present.
Okay. Leaf collection begins on October 16th. Details are available on the city's website, www.lovelandoh.gov. The Loveland Stage Company will be showing classic Halloween movies in October. First is Friday, October 13th, Dracula. October 20th is Frankenstein.
Nice.
Stein. That didn't sound right. October 27th is The Wolfman. Movies start at 8 p.m. Tickets are 10 o'clock and can be purchased at the door or in advance. The Stage Company will also be hosting a spooky walking tour of historic Loveland on October 21st. Details are on their website, www.lovelandstagecompany.org. 100% of the proceeds from these events will go toward the theater's fundraiser to replace its HVAC system. Anybody have any other reports of any kind? Mr. Bateman.
So today is World Mental Health Day, and it's one of those things that you see on Google or something, you don't even know it exists. But I noticed that was the case today, and the reason I was looking that up was because yesterday at the Claremont Mental Health and Recovery Board, I learned that we have here in Loveland. NAMI Southwest Ohio just moved into an office on Loveland Avenue. So NAMI Southwest Ohio is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it's a great agency with a tremendous amount of resources. Serves multiple counties here in Southwest Ohio. It's a lean team of people, nonprofit folks with lived experiences to help promote awareness and advocacy on mental health and behavioral health issues. And I was really pleased to learn that this agency has chosen Loveland, Ohio as their headquarters for the region, for their regional outreach. So I thought I would try to tie those two things together, but also to promote their cause, because they're, as I said, it's a small team of folks. They're really a hub for mental health resources for the greater community at large. but they're very giving and willing and sharing with their education and presentations. So any local businesses or agencies here in town that would like to tap into that, I think we would be much better for it. And the convenience factor of having someone in your own backyard that promotes those kinds of causes is something that I think we all should celebrate and take advantage of. I just wanted to make a promotion and a shout out for them. Katie Harper is their executive director, and so they're in the process of unboxing all their stuff right now. So I'm sure they'll be stopping in at some point.
Where's the
to
location?
introduce themselves. It's on 420 West Loveland. The church, the Methodist church, with the that's been converted into a
Cancer-free kids.
Yes, exactly. Right. So again, I love seeing a nonprofit agency that I know from my experiences doing such great work in the region settle here, and I hope it's for a long time.
They are already active at our schools.
Yeah, they do a lot of school presentations, and again, it's a really positive force for our community.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Anyone else? All right. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori? Motion carries 70.